This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Kid Stays in the Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cooper, and joining me today is...
Sneaky guy.
What?
Cooper.
I honestly don't even understand what that's supposed to be.
Sneaky, like a sneaky guy. A sneaky tomb raiding guy.
That is horrible.
You had to be so sneaky.
No, honestly, it's so upsetting to me because I always say that's the worst one, and now it seems like it's like a bit. People are going to think that I'm just saying it as a bit, but that actually was the worst thing I've ever heard.
That one was good, though.
That was so awful.
That one was like the best one yet, I think.
Well, joining me today is Solomon Cooper, as always, and we're going to be discussing the latest and likely final entry in the Indiana Jones series, and that is Indiana Jones
And the
what?
Time dial.
The
Dial of Destiny.
I thought you were going to say the dial tone.
No.
Yes, and the Dial of Destiny. So this makes it Indy's, fourth outing since the, I guess fourth outing total. I almost said it's fourth outing since the original trilogy. So, did you see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and do you remember anything about it? I know you've seen it.
I've seen it. I don't remember anything about it. The only one I remember is Temple of Doom.
That's the only one you remember?
I think so. I mean, maybe I do remember the other ones, but I don't remember them.
What about him running away from the big giant rock? You don't remember that?
I thought that was in Temple of Doom.
No, that's that's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I do remember that then. I think I just have them all in one movie then, probably.
And that's fine, because we haven't gone back and watched them recently, and whenever you watch them, we used to watch them I keep hitting my mic. We used to watch them quite often when you were younger. So, like probably a lot of kids, you kind of just grew up with a fully formed Indiana Jones memory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like whenever you're like 5 or 6, you don't know which movie was Return of the Jedi and which one was Star Wars.
I would never forget that. And which one was Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars is the first one, and then Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
Don't do this. Don't call it Don't call the first movie Star Wars, just Star Wars.
That's what it's called.
No, it's called A New Hope.
But it was originally just called Star Wars.
So you were talking about whenever you were 6 years old.
Yeah, I was saying, like, normally for a 6-year-old, you don't. All the movies are kind of blended together. So if I said I want to watch Star Wars, my dad went and got Return of the Jedi. I would just be like, oh yeah, I remember this, but I didn't know which movie had which thing in it. They all blended together for me. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. I thought you were using a general example, but really it was more of a your personal example. It felt like.
I feel like that's generally how kids are when you grow up.
But
you
used Star Wars and not A New Hope, which confused me.
Why?
Because that was a different. You used a different. It was just too weird, too odd and confusing.
I'm so annoyed by what you're doing right now.
But speaking of Star Wars and John Williams, let's get back into Indiana Jones with another score by him, John Williams.
Well, I need to know what your familiarity is with Indiana Jones before I can take your opinion on this movie seriously.
I liked him.
So, but you don't remember Crystal Skull at all. I mean, it's not a great
Which one's
movie.
Crystal Skull?
You've seen it a bunch of times because I know you got really freaked out.
Which one's the one where he goes like Kalima?
That's Temple of Doom.
Okay. See.
Crystal Skull is fairly recent. Indiana Jones was already old. It's the first of the old man Indiana Jones movies. So, I mean, he's obviously not as old as he is now, but he's old. It's the one where they're in the jungle and there's those guys get eaten by those flesh-eating ants.
Is that where quicksand happens?
Yeah, quicksand happens in it.
Vaguely remember the quicksand.
And Shia LaBeouf is in it as his son, Mutt.
It's a bad name.
Yep, that's why they killed him in this movie.
Spoilers.
So anyway, this is a little bit upsetting because you have no context now from what the new Indiana Jones movies, the two that we have. So I'm going to have to provide the only context here and say that I will just want to get it out the gate, say that this movie is hands down better than Crystal Skull.
Amen.
I read somebody say that this movie is so bad we didn't realize how good we had it with the Crystal Skull, and I think that person's a moron. Now, I will say that Crystal Skull is, I think, overly maligned. It's not as bad as everybody acts like it is.
Sure.
But it's not good.
Okay.
But this movie actually has some of the same weaknesses as Crystal Skull, or one of the same weaknesses, specifically being...
What is that? Tell us.
I was going to.
I know, but I wanted to talk.
An over-reliance on CGI, which is just a bad thing to do in an Indiana Jones movie.
So, can you give us some examples?
Well, in Crystal Skull, there's the infamous part where Mutt swings through the vines with a bunch of monkeys, and it's one of the worst-looking shots ever. All of the monkeys are CGI, and then when it pans out, it's very obvious that he himself is CGI swinging. So it's an awful scene. There's a bunch of CGI ants that kill people. There's a giant car with like a saw on it and a big CGI chase through a fake rainforest.
And so what happened in this movie that you feel like compares to those scenes?
Two things specifically. One is there's a shot where Indiana Jones jumps off of a motorcycle or something onto the top of a train.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like full CGI person. And it looks awful.
I didn't notice it.
I did, and it looked horrendous. It was such a bad shot. Was shocked that it was in a movie like this. The other thing is a little bit more forgivable. They de-age Indiana Jones, right? They de-age Harrison Ford, and we knew this was going to happen from the trailers. It's very admirable that they wanted, and I don't know how much of it was played by Harrison Ford, but I know that he said that it's all him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said they used composite images and whatever of his face, and then he actually was on set acting it. Maybe sometimes it was a stunt double. But the thing is, Harrison Ford doesn't move like he did whenever he was 30. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he's not built the same anymore. He's a little bit more barrel-chested. He walks like somebody who's in their 70s. You know what I mean?
70? Or in his 70s?
I think he's old. I think he's late 70s.
Wowza. No way.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, dude. He was in Star Wars, and that's a pretty old movie.
You know what else he was in? Indiana Jones.
Okay. Well, how old is Star Wars?
So you're calling it Star Wars 2 and not A New Hope.
Well,
so I tried to type in Harrison Ford so he could get his age, and it brought up Harrison Fording funeral homes. He's 80 years old.
what?
Yeah.
Dude, he's a trooper.
Yeah. So we have an 80-year-old person who's playing his 30-year-old self. They de-aged his face, but his face isn't shaped exactly the same anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit broader. So it made it to where young Indiana Jones' face just looks off a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's already going to look off because it's de-aged and it's CGI. But it looks a little bit more off even because it's a little bit too wide. And then he kind of has this lumbering 80-year-old man walk. So just everything about it just feels a bit off. Now, you get used to it. At least I did.
I never noticed it once again.
Yeah, but you haven't obviously grown up watching all these movies and have them like perfectly memorized. But yeah, this is the thing about de-aging. Some people hate it. Some people think it's an abomination that needs to go away. I think that that case is like pretty overstated because of exactly what you said. Like, we went with some of our friends, and our friend's daughter, she also had no idea that was de-aged.
Mm-hmm.
No clue. You know what I mean? So, same thing whenever they did in Star Wars. Anybody who had not already seen Star Wars and didn't know that Peter Cushing was dead had no idea that Tarkin was fully CGI'd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with Princess Leia. So if it's tricking anybody who doesn't already know, then it's working. But whenever you do know,
It's weird.
it's weird. So I think those were my two biggest things. Other than that, the movie was mostly pretty practical.
Yeah, we love practical effects here on the Kid Stays in the podcast.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm curious. Like, since you didn't really watch the other movies, or you've watched them obviously all, but
And I
you
have,
just don't remember them that well.
and I love them. Like whenever I think of Indiana Jones, I only have nothing but fond memories.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't really remember it too well.
So what was this movie watching experience like for you? Was there any nostalgia at all? Like, since, obviously the theme song is there
Yeah,
doing the Lord's work.
that's probably about it, honestly. Like, I was like, oh, that's his stuff. But that's not because, like, I was like, oh, that's his stuff. It was just like,
What?
sorry. I was like, oh, that's his stuff. Not because I, like, had seen all the movies, just because I just know that that's his stuff.
What stuff?
Like his whip and his hat, his leather jacket.
I don't understand.
Like, I'm just saying, I didn't, like, see it and be like, oh, my God, it's
Yeah.
it's the magical classic fit. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, the director had said that he was not going to be diving really heavily into fan service. He didn't want the movie to do that. And there was stuff in there for the fans, but I have to say I could have used a little bit more fan service. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, once again, that didn't bother me at all. Because if they did, then I would just be like, oh, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, 'cause I get why he wouldn't, as a director, want to just have a thing that's pushing all these nostalgia buttons.
For all these old people that no one cares about.
I think that they should have pushed some of them a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure, we got the whip and we got the whatever, but they downplayed the fan service, I think, a bit too much. Which, I can kind of understand. This is just supposed to be another Indiana Jones movie. It's not supposed to be, oh, Indiana Jones hasn't been on screen for like 20 years or whatever. Yeah, I guess I keep forgetting about Crystal Skull. Also, this movie did a really funny thing where they basically they pulled like a Rise of Skywalker and undid everything from the last movie.
That's not Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker just undid everything that the Last Jedi did.
They did? Oh, but they did this. Sorry, I'm sorry.
What is wrong with? Did you hit your head on the way out the door this morning?
Yes.
No, you're like slowing down in every way. You're talking slow. Your brain is moving slowly.
Yes, I know, Dad. I'm sorry. I thought for some reason I got confused. I thought the second movie or the 8th movie undid all the things the first movie did.
Kind of did, but Rise of Skywalker is the one that really, really undid everything from the last movie.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Pardon me.
I want to hit you in the face.
Dad.
The lazy way that you're talking is.
I apologized.
Yeah, but you're like, I apologize. Stupid me. I don't even understand what's going on.
I do understand.
How are you getting these things confused? All that Last Jedi did that undid, it just didn't answer any of the mystery box questions that J.J. Abrams set up. He set up all these mystery boxes and they just said, nope, those don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. He didn't undo anything.
Sure.
In the next movie, they literally were like, oh, he just lied to you. Your parents were really important.
That's true. That was funny.
Yes.
God, that movie's so bad.
So in this movie's much better. So it's I'm happy they did it. So at the end of Crystal Skull, he gets married to Marion Ravenwood, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was from the original Indiana Jones movie.
Okay.
So he brought her back. At the end of the movie, they get married. He finds out he has a kid who's Elijah Wood. Shia LaBeouf.
What a weird pick.
Mutt. And then this movie opens and him and Marion are divorced and Mutt is dead.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which is really funny because for a long time, it was rumored that Shia LaBeouf was going to be taking over a new Indiana Jones franchise. And
that didn't happen.
No.
And it never will.
It didn't happen, and it never, ever will. Yes.
Nor should it.
But yeah, it's kind of hard for me to have a discussion about that, what your thoughts on that are, since you're like, I don't even remember.
Don't say it like that's like I'm being an a-hole about it. It's like, oh, I purposely forgot. Me.
Well, you've seen the movie like a billion times. So I didn't think I was going to have to remind you to not forget about it.
I was like 10.
So what? That's not that long ago. I remember movies that I saw when I was 10, and that was 20 years ago.
Probably wasn't even 10. Probably was like 4.
I just now said I was 30. Wouldn't that be nice? I should start lying about my age on this podcast more. Apparently, it tricks a lot of people.
Yeah. Maybe you should. You're still 27 in my heart, Dad.
Yeah. 27.
Yeah.
That's how old were you then? 3?
Yes.
Okay, so
can we get in the meat and potatoes about this movie?
I don't know how we're gonna get in the meat and potatoes
because
all you have no context.
I don't need context. I can still discuss the movie.
It's the 4th movie in a series, and you have no context of what the other movies are.
I can just discuss the movie, the plot of the movie. What about my synopses that I always give?
Fine, we'll let you do one of your dumb plot synopses.
Oh, it's gonna suck.
And then we're just going to talk about the movie around it being related to any other movies.
It's just
You're
like
not even going to be able to do a ranking at the end. You'll be like, one that I remember, Amorphous Blob, and then this movie. Anyway, we have to take a break. Now
what
I'm
about
back.
my plot synopsis?
We have to take a break now.
No one's ever had a plot synopsis in the second part of our podcast.
No one's had a more worthless first half of a podcast before.
Bye. See you soon.
Why are you being rude to the audience?
Hey, I'm Blair.
And I'm Brittany. And we're the host of
By the Cover Podcast.
We cover everything from mysteries, thrillers, romance, chick lit, and even some smut.
Don't forget the smut.
Yeah.
We're so excited to get this thing going and share this with you guys. We've been talking about this for months, and it's finally happening.
Yes.
Special shout out to Rogue Media for helping us with this.
For sure. For sure. You can find us on Instagram at @bythecover_podcast.
You can also find us on Facebook and TikTok, so don't forget to give us a follow on those two also.
And we are so excited to dive into some of our favorite books and share those with you.
We can't wait. Hope you love it.
Hola, yo soy Jackie.
Y yo soy Jessica.
Y esto es Zona del Crimen. Un podcast donde hablaremos sobre casos de crímenes reales
Y eventos impactantes que han quedado marcados a través del tiempo. Recuerden que nos pueden seguir en Facebook, Instagram.
o donde escuches tus podcasts favoritos.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach,
And I'm Mike.
and we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros, Foes, Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Welcome back to the Kids Season of the podcast and our discussion of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Calling it a discussion is being very generous.
So, I'm going to just get right onto this plot synopsis. Basically, this old man, he works at a college. His name is Indiana Jones. He's done. He's done exploring. His goddaughter finds him, and they're going to go find the newest artifact, the Dial of Destiny. Woohoo!
Not even really accurate so far, but go ahead.
Oh, that's the end.
That's the whole plot synopsis?
Well, you said it was only supposed to be 2 sentences.
Yeah, but it should be at least accurate sentences.
Okay. And then they have to fight Nazis.
No, they aren't going to go find the thing. His goddaughter just shows up and then steals it from him.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But then they eventually team up.
Yeah, they do eventually team up because now there's a bunch of assassins trying to kill him.
And Nazis.
And Nazis, yes.
There's Nazis in this movie, guys.
Yeah, so the whole movie revolves the kind of artifact this time around. And you know, people that consider themselves Indiana Jones purists, they always think that the most important thing is that there's like some magical religious artifact that Indiana Jones is getting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that people usually like Last Crusade and Raiders the most. And for a long time, Temple of Doom was considered kind of the rat bastard of the pack. I think tides and opinions have changed on Temple of Doom, and now most people appreciate what it is. And there's not any magic artifact in Temple of Doom that Indiana Jones is looking for. He just kind of stumbles into that whole scenario.
Mm.
And this Indiana Jones is modeled after 1930s like serial adventure novels.
Yep.
So every one of those can't just be about. What are you acting like this for?
Nothing. I'm not. Keep going.
So those can't all just be about him finding some new biblical artifact every single, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
book. So I liked the fact that this artifact was a little bit different. But this artifact is supposed to be able to.
This artifact's cool. I like this artifact. I like the idea of it.
It's based on a real historical. I don't know if it's actually real, but it's a real, at least urban legend in historical circles that Archimedes made.
Could you give me the real name of it?
No,
Nope.
like Arkachukadukaduki.
Dang it. I really wanted to see it. Well, I thought you were going to take it seriously because I really thought you wouldn't know it. It's
No.
like, I think it's called like the Anmicthura or something like
Something like that.
that. Anmicthura.
But yeah, it's based on a real thing again, well, or at least a allegedly real thing that supposedly Archimedes made that could predict the movement of celestial bodies. In this movie, they have modified it to where it can predict where fissures
in time.
Will appear.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have it. This is another thing I want to just really quickly go back to. Did you in any way feel like Mads Mikkelsen's character looked de-aged at the beginning?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because I always think of Mads Mikkelsen as being about that age,
Yeah.
even though he's not. So I didn't even realize that he was de-aged until like the very end of the scene. And it wasn't because the aging looked bad. It was just because I realized that he's not that young. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did not notice.
So, I think that does go to show you how much the uncanny valley. It's hard to know what about it is really not working, and what part of it is your own brain's bias.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yes, a Nazi that they had taken this dial from, back in the very end of World War II.
Yeah, it was really confusing for me because I didn't really know when this whole deal was set. So I was just like, oh, they're just fighting Nazis in World War II.
No, because it was set during the Vietnam War,
I don't know.
or somewhere near there. Then, yeah, because you know when the moon landing is.
Yeah.
So how did that not give it off?
I realized that. It was just like, for some reason, I always assume that it's present day, but it was just weird.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's taking place during the moon landing. They kind of take a little bit of a dookie on the moon landing by implying that the moon landing was orchestrated by Nazis. It's pretty rude.
That's true. Also, I feel like we should talk about this for like a second. The whole beginning of the movie, the first fifth
I don't
or
know.
sixth
I don't know what you're talking about.
of the movie, is just like, what is it? It's not a flashback. It's just,
Yeah.
What's his name? I already forgot his name.
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Oh my God, this
No,
is.
well, I was
so
gonna say
embarrassing.
Harrison Ford is the problem. I was gonna say Harrison Ford. Whenever he was like young and he's like on this thing trying to find this artifact.
Right.
And then like after this whole thing where they are on this
I
train,
wouldn't say it's a fifth of the movie.
I would.
It's just a prologue.
Sixth of the movie.
It's just one action sequence.
It was a long sequence, dude.
Yeah, it was, but it was cool.
I not saying I didn't like it. I just thought I would address it because it happened. It's important.
Okay, what was your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought it was cool, but he fights he punches this Nazi, and then he sees him way later because you steal the style from him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So yeah, it's kind of like the whole.
Yeah, there's a very the whole her only. Oh my God, I can't talk at all.
Oh,
The
look
whole-
who's stupid now.
The whole early action scene takes place at the very end of World War II. So he's fighting Nazis when they're in power. This German physicist or mathematician.
Physicist.
Is he I said physicist or mathematician. Which one is he? I don't remember.
It's a physicist.
But yeah, so he
Archimedes is a
he's helped us
mathematician.
get to the moon. They say that he built the rockets or whatever that took us to the moon. And essentially he's still looking for this dial.
Mhm.
Because what he wants to do is, it's very funny, and they make a joke about it, but he wants to go back in time. He wants to find these time fissures and go back in time to kill Hitler, but not because he hates Nazis, but because he thinks he's a better Nazi than Hitler is,
Yeah.
and he will win the war.
Yep.
So this is a full spoiler podcast, so I want to get into some of the more spoilery territory.
Cool.
Because I think it's something that I wish that would have been a little bit more a part of the plot. You know what I mean? Whether it was going to be foreshadowed more or it happens earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was one of the coolest ideas that they had, and I think it could have been really, really, you know what I mean?
Dope.
Yeah. I mean, I could understand why they wouldn't want to risk it in case it comes across as stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, well, actually, before we get there, I want to address something that I think is I need to watch the movie again to see if I think it's an actual flaw. But the movie is essentially a really, really long chase sequence from like beginning to about 3/4 of the way through. It's just chase scenes after chase scenes, car chases, horse chases.
I was gonna make a joke about that as well, like just at some point, because I kept noticing it. I was gonna like lean over to you. I was like, "Is this movie just gonna be this guy running away from these people?"
Yeah, like honestly, it really isn't until they like go find the scuba diver guy that the movie kind of stops being just a chase sequence.
Yeah.
And I think that I would have appreciated more.
And no, because even then they're still getting chased.
Yeah, but
it's not a sequence.
Stopped for a little bit to do some treasure hunting.
Yeah.
I would like to have seen a bit more cave exploring and tomb raiding in my Indiana Jones movie than it just be a long Mission Impossible style chase sequence with the 80-year-old man.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of Mission Impossible vibes.
Yeah. But anyway, once the movie does kind of, and it takes too long, settle into them exploring ruins, them looking for artifacts, them solving ancient puzzles, it finds its groove, I think, very well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this Nazi's plan is to finds this fissure that's going to open to 1939. He's going to go back in time, and they've like redesigned a World War II bomber. You know what I mean? That redesigned it. They have refurbished one. Everybody puts on their old historical Nazi uniforms, and they're all going to go in there, pretend like they're part of a bombing thing, and then go kill Hitler and whatever. He's going to become the new Führer. So Indiana Jones realizes that they haven't taken account for like continental drift.
Yes.
So he's going into the wrong fissure to try and get to that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize it until too late. And so they end up going back to like, I don't know what time it was, but it was ancient Roman times.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like shooting ballistas and stuff at the airplanes because they think they're dragons. It's a very fun.
It's really cool. I really liked it.
Yeah. It's a very fun sequence, but it's like basically then all the Nazis that have been the villains the entire movie long, they just all die. Indiana Jones doesn't kill them. There's no neat thing where their face melts off. There's no you chose poorly and he turns into a skeleton. You know what I mean? They just die in a plane crash.
Well,
just all of them at once die in a plane crash.
That's true. Most of them do. One of them drowns.
That's earlier though. I'm just saying all the bad guys that are remaining when they go through this time fissure, they just all instantly die.
Yeah, it was really funny. Well, one of them died to a ballista, which was really funny. He was hanging out. He was trying to like hang out at the thing, shooting them.
But
and
he was
then
just
a
like
ballista.
some random person.
Well, most of the people on that plane were random. There's like two people.
There's the main bad guy and the main heavy that's with him, and both of them just die in a plane crash.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it would have been neater if they would have like gotten surrounded by Romans or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And speared to death. Anything. Maybe they could have melted them with one of those sunbeam things they were using to burn the ships up with. But yeah, that sequence is really neat. It's a nice twist on the Indiana Jones formula, but it doesn't last for very long. It's over pretty quickly. You know what I mean? It's basically just a fun little spectacle action scene, and then it's over.
Yeah, it was like 10, 20 minutes.
I think they could have pulled that into the movie about 20, 30 minutes earlier, had a little bit of an adventure there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're now exploring Roman tombs or whatever, but while they're nice and fresh, you know what I mean?
Fresh tombs.
Yeah, I think that would have been really cool. And solve some little puzzles. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to make gasoline to refuel their plane so they can get back into the time portal or whatever.
Or maybe the Archimedes style broke. and then they
Yeah.
had to go find the new one that he already had made or
Or
something.
they have to find Archimedes and have him remake the other piece of it so they can find another time portal to get home.
Mm-hmm.
All
Lot
of these
cool
things. Yeah. I mean, anything to supplant some of the endless chase sequences that we had. But yeah, I mean, what did you think about Harrison Ford though, playing an action hero essentially at 80 years old?
I feel like he was doing a great job. I saw him leaping from car to car, and he's so old, just jumping all around.
Why are you being so condescending?
He's doing so good.
Why are you being so condescending
I'm
about
not
it?
doing. I'm not.
You're basically saying like that little buddy, he was just doing his best he could do.
He was doing really, and his best is great. I love his best.
I thought he did.
And
really
I love
good.
Harrison Ford, and I always have. My name is Solo, so I resonate a lot with Han Solo. So once I saw that there was another thing where Han Solo was really cool and got to explore tombs, I was like, yeah, this is the guy for me.
Okay.
So I really like Harrison Ford.
Well, yeah, I thought he did great, and
His smile is so charming, too. Oh, God, I love him so much. He's so cool. I wish I could be like him when I grow up.
well, you could. You said to try hard, try really, really hard.
Really, really, really hard.
But yeah, I thought Harrison Ford did a great job. I really liked Phoebe Waller-Bridge as his goddaughter. I thought she was having a blast.
Also, impossible.
What do you mean?
That lady is far too young to just be a goddaughter. That is great goddaughter.
She's not that young.
She's not 40 or 50 or 60.
She's in her 30s. Harrison Ford's not supposed to be 80 in the movie. Indiana Jones is not supposed to be 80 by the time the moon landing happens.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it works perfectly.
When was World War II? 1952?
Bitch, they explain it in the thing. They're trying to go back to 1939.
1939. You're right. I thought that was World War I. That's 1915.
Oh!
That's 1915. Okay, so 1939. When was the moon landing then?
60 something.
That's 30 years. Okay, I guess he'd only be like 60, 70.
Yeah.
Either way, still pretty old.
Now the 30-year-old, she's 30 something years old.
Neither of my grandparents are 70.
Okay. Yes, they are.
70?
Why are we arguing about this? We have 30 seconds left to
Sorry.
finish this review.
Okay.
This is the dumbest thing in the world. Anyway, all I was going to say is I didn't really love the new sidekick person. He wasn't bad. He just never really
The
grew on
boy?
me. Yeah.
I loved him.
Maybe it's because he had that wispy mustache that was annoying me.
I don't even remember his name, but I liked him a lot.
I didn't like him a lot. See, whenever I came back, I had to go pee, and then when I came back and he had gotten kidnapped, it didn't feel nothing bad. I didn't even thinking like, oh crap. I just didn't care about him at all.
I liked him so much. He was a good little pickpocket.
He was
cool
he was
too.
No Short Round.
I liked him a lot. I thought he was cool.
You like him more than Short Round?
I don't know.
He's the guy from Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom.
I know he is, but I don't remember what he did or what he does.
I'm gonna
or how
actually
he
hit you
do.
in the face with this microphone. Anyway,
Yes.
I'm done with this discussion.
What's our review? What's
I'm
our
done with the
number?
discussion.
What's
I'm
our
gonna
number?
give this movie 7 snakes out of 10.
I'll give it 7. Why does it have to be snakes out of 10?
Oh my gosh! So you're giving it a 7 also?
Yeah.
You can't even do your own original score.
What do you? 6.7.
You're giving
8,
it a lower score.
9, 10. Yeah.
You did fall asleep. Rudely.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Anyway, it's better than Crystal Skull. Easy to watch at the end of the original trilogy, but I would still say it's definitely still worse than any of the original 3 movies.
Yeah.
That's our review. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Was it the 5th movie?
See you next time. It's over now.
I know.
I'm leaving.
Was it the 5th movie?
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.